praying for me? Now, y'all my friends when I come to your jurisdiction now. Come on. Are you praying for me? And then relationships. You know, I read a book and it said this. It said, what Jesus did was this. He didn't try to get folk to behave before they belong. We got to get folk to behave a certain kind of way before we let them belong. But you know what? I'm convinced of this, that if you get them to belong, then they'll believe and then they'll behave. But if you try to get them to behave before they believe, then you can never behave before you believe, because your behavior comes out of what you believe. Let them just hang out with you. Let them just, you got enough God in you to hold you up, ain't you? Unless you're scared you may lose what you got. And if you can lose what you got because of somebody else, you ain't got much. I heard him say, greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. Secondly, I'm glad somebody let me belong, let me belong, let me belong, let me belong. And how many know that some folk that belong to you, they gonna make some mistakes? I say they gonna make some mistakes. 2, we need focus. If we're going to be all things to all people by all godly strategy, we need to focus. And you know what? We already got the direction. We just need to focus on the direction we're going. God cannot change where we're going until he first changes what we're looking at. What are we looking at? What are we looking at? What do you want? Helen Keller said this: the greatest tragedy in life is to have eyes and no sight. What are you saying? The question is, how do we see tonight? How do we see? How do we see our church? How do we see our pastors? How do we see our leaders? How do we see the general board? How do we see our bishop? We need to focus. I say this with all of my heart. You know, I used to hear people say this, but I believe with all my heart today. I believe that we are part of one of the greatest churches in the whole wide world. I believe that with all of my heart. And it's just, I believe, unnecessary to achieve our goal for the churches, the districts, and jurisdiction. Number 1, we need flexibility. Flexibility conveys the idea of being responsive to changes, easily yielding, and being accommodating, which is the ability to adjust to fit new conditions for success. Our problem may be that we have substituted the substance for the shadow. What do you mean by that, Pastor? Simply this: we have substituted tradition for truth. We have substituted the shout for the spirit. We have substituted the look for the likeness. In other words, we look like preachers and we look like saints, but we don't act like preachers and we don't act like saints. And so we look like it, but we don't act like it. And there's something wrong with substituting the shadow for the substance.